But if everyone can understand the board's role is more strategic and oversight focused, everyone will be happier. So again, a lot of this, especially as a young nonprofit, is role clarity. It is how can I actually communicate to my board, hey, we really respect and honor you. We appreciate your willingness to be involved in our nonprofit. We are excited to have you partner with us about this cause that you and I are passionate about, but I want to ease your concerns that you're not doing everything. You're not running the organization. If you do, that's a whole nother conversation. You can have that conversation. Maybe their capacity shifts to being part-time staff or something like that. But yeah, overall, when you're asking somebody to be on your board, or you are going onto a board, it's typically more fiscal, legal, and strategic oversight. You're giving your 2 cents, you're helping them make some of those decisions that maybe are more high level.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm here to encourage and teach you how to run the nonprofit of your dreams. Your purpose may be to start a nonprofit, but my purpose is to empower and equip you to set up your nonprofit to run with compliance, integrity, and sustainability. I bring my years of experience running a board, working with nonprofits as an employee, a manager, and a consultant so that you can avoid the pitfalls that I've witnessed firsthand. I created Pursuit of Purpose with a powerful mission to connect people to their purpose. I believe that you were given a people group or a cause that matters to you, and you're one of the passionate people on this planet who has committed their desire to do something about it. My goal is to help people like you by starting, improving, and sustaining their nonprofit through my experiences, resources, and consultations. My hope is that you and all of our nonprofit champions listening can each make our corner of the world a better place. So let's turn your passion into action. If you're wanting to have honest, relatable, and informative conversations around what it really takes to run a nonprofit, you've come to the right place.
Perfect. Well, okay, so I have a couple of updates. First of all, drink of the day is creatine. So we're trying to be healthy. Yay. I wanted to thank you all for your patience. I know there have been a lot of changes since the last episode has been posted. First of all, I've had a couple of seizures. These are like they've happened in the last 4 years on and off. And I just had to like go meet with a new neurologist and a couple of other doctors. So we're just getting all that squared away. We finally saw a good neurologist that's really helpful last week, Tuesday, and then this week, later this week, we're going to have a follow-up appointment with the nurse practitioner and just getting all the information together of all the hospitals that I worked at, I got worked up on when I was back in Colorado. Um, but yeah, I'm excited because that stuff seems to be settling down. I have so many ideas and so many people waiting to be on this podcast, which is so exciting. So, thank you for your patience. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the basics of what it is you need to know as a young nonprofit with your board of directors. For those of you who've had a board of directors already, this is also just a great recap, a good refresher. If you're thinking of somebody who maybe is curious about being on your board of directors, this episode could be a really helpful way for them to understand some of the expectations that come with being on a board of directors. I'll give you a little bit of historical background for myself. When I first moved to the greater Boston area, there's a nonprofit in Waltham, Massachusetts called Families for Depression Awareness. And so I actually volunteered with them for a year in their governance committee. And then a year after that initial year, I stepped into the president of the board position. So I'll talk a little bit about that in future episodes when we talk about finding a board. But just so you understand, that is the main source of information, and some of my anecdotal stories will be based on that experience. But I also have advised a lot of different nonprofits throughout the nation and throughout the world in different countries, like in Africa. Um, about their board of directors. I've been kind of a sounding board for other nonprofits that have really tried to figure out how do I navigate these issues that come up with your board sometimes? How do I leverage my board in a way that helps them feel engaged and feel like they're making an important contribution? But yeah, it's a complex aspect of your nonprofit, and it's really key and it's really crucial to have this be a really like symbiotic working relationship. It's not going to be perfect 24/7, but it is a really great opportunity for people to be able to partner with you in what you're doing so you can do more good. All right. So basically, your board of directors is going to consist, at least, and this is me mostly speaking to US based nonprofits. A lot of my international folks, this particular subject will also be relevant to, but again, most of the work that I do is, I would say, like 75 to 80% with US based nonprofits. So, five crucial tips for young nonprofits to understand what a board of director is. Taking a sip, and then we're jumping in. Okay. Number one, the board is the governing body, not day-to-day staff. So there's different like levels of engagement that you can have with your board. Specifically, it's a really fundamental distinction because the board of directors is responsible for governance of the organization. So sometimes on a larger board, like when I was with FFDA or Families for Depression Awareness, um, there's like a whole governance committee. We had like 20 and 21 person board, which is larger than I typically recommend. I recommend anywhere between 5 and 9. Usually an odd number is good so that when you vote, you don't have a tie and it's just easier. But yeah, and 5 to 9, seven's a good sweet spot for a lot of people. But anyway, the board of directors is responsible for the governance of the organization. So it means they set strategic vision, oversee finances, ensure legal and ethical compliance, and they either hire and or evaluate the executive director if there is one for your organization. Um, so that's what they are. What they're not is they're not responsible for the daily operations, program delivery, um, total fundraising execution. A lot of board members will be engaged in some sort of fundraising efforts, whether that's donating personally. A lot of times there's like a minimum donation per board member, and with FFDA specifically and a lot of other nonprofits, it's a give or get, which is really nice because it creates more equitability between talent that can show up and be on your board. But a give or get essentially is like, let's say it's $500 that they want every board member to bring into the organization. I, as a board member, could give $500 off the bat, or I could do like a LinkedIn or Facebook fundraiser, for example, and have friends and family donate to reach that $500. One way I would do it is I would buy like a table at a gala, and that ended up being like 600-ish dollars. And so that was my donation. So I was able to bring guests to this gala that we would throw, and then they could bid on things for the silent auction. So it was like a nice way to like rope people in my community personally in as like a gift to them, but also hoping that they would be able to donate or at least be aware of the cause in some capacity. So yeah, that one's a little bit of like more teamwork-esque type of relationship. So for fundraising, but again, they're not board members are not responsible for the operations, program delivery, or like complete fundraising execution. So that really, those three things are really the role of staff and sometimes volunteers. Young board members often, young nonprofits often think that board members will be heavily involved in every single task, leading to burnout and micromanagement. But if everyone can understand the board's role is more strategic and oversight focused, everyone will be happier. So again, a lot of this, especially as a young nonprofit, is role clarity. It is how can I actually communicate to my board, hey, we really respect and honor you. We appreciate your willingness to be involved in our nonprofit. We are excited to have you partner with us about this cause that you and I are passionate about. But I want to ease your concerns that you're not doing everything. You're not running the organization. If you do, that's a whole other conversation. You can have that conversation. Maybe their capacity shifts to being part-time staff or something like that. But yeah, overall, when you're asking somebody to be on your board or you are going onto a board, it's typically more fiscal, legal, um, and strategic oversight. You're giving your 2 cents, you're helping them make some of those decisions that maybe are more high level. And yeah, you're not packing the boxes for the food pantry, for example. You can, and it's totally great to have board members that will volunteer and be like boots on the ground with you for programs. But that's not their like set out purpose, if that makes sense. So leading into that next point, so that's the first point, they're governing body and they're not day-to-day staff. Number two, the crucial tip is fiduciary duty. So I'm going to explain this. This is my fun legalese breakdown for you. Don't get overwhelmed. I know I'm saying that and hopefully you're not too scared, but really this is that like, what does it mean when I'm a board member? This is how we answer that question. So a lot of people, when they're asked to be on a board, they kind of like tense up a little bit and they're like, what does that mean? So there are three legal duties that you have as a board member. So when you're asking somebody to be on your board, know these three legal duties, be able to communicate them clearly, send them this podcast. Um, I have a document if you ever do like consulting with me or you purchase some of my online courses. I also have like a document that outlines what the three legal duties is. It's like a tidy little one pager that you can send to people that you're interested in having on your board. Um, and it's like an agreement. Hey, do you agree to these things? Do you have any questions? Let's have a conversation. So again, that's the beauty of a contract, in my opinion. When I did law school, that was one of my favorite classes. People think I'm crazy for saying that, but that's totally okay. I loved it. Somebody has to. Fiduciary duties. So board members have a legal and ethical responsibility to the organization known as a fiduciary duty. This encompasses three key aspects: duty of loyalty, duty of care, and duty of obedience. So, duty of loyalty is acting in the best interests of the nonprofit, not for personal gain or benefit of the other organizations. So, really, this one is like you're avoiding conflict of interest at all costs. And I'll give an example too, because this sometimes carries gray area with it, but duty of loyalty is really um, if you, let's say Joe is on your nonprofit and he's owns a bunch of real estate and like office buildings, and your nonprofit, your lease is up for your current office, and you're thinking maybe we should move and try to find a better deal. Maybe Joe is like, I'm going to cut you guys a better deal, but Joe is going to benefit from you taking that deal if you decide to. So like he's getting a monthly or annual like revenue from you being in the office, but he's also offering you a deal. So what you do in that situation is a couple of steps. Number one, you're going to want to bring it to the board and say, hey, Joe has come forward and he's offered this. We're taking a look at the different office buildings, and it's part of our overall strategic plan to figure out a cheaper office building situation. We'd like to consider this, have a conversation with the board. So that's number one. Number two is you need to have due diligence. So compare with like two, three, however many other options in your area for office buildings. Have some comparison. Make sure you're getting the best, whatever your definition of best is, for your decision. Um, and then three, when you're deciding on said decision, where are we going to have our office building? Joe's maybe is in the mix. You're going to want to actually say, all right, Joe, we're going to vote. We're going to have you sit out of this vote as the board of directors that's part of that decision, because you would have a bias towards probably saying, choose my option, right? So you remove him from that vote, have everyone else vote, and then if Joe decides to do that, it's all above board. That's basically what this duty of loyalty is. It's like, how do we do this in a clean, above board way with integrity? We're not going to just say, hey, executive director, I'm Joe, do this option, don't tell anybody. And then I find out later as a board member, hey, maybe I also have a building that could have been for use, and it's like unfair, and then it gets tangled. It becomes unfair to other people and other options. You can't just go ahead and say, oh well, Joe said this is an option, let's do it. I mean, you can, but then you run into some other issues down the road potentially. And then there's, yeah, it gets messy. I can do a whole episode on that if you're interested in some of the deep waters and gray areas that there are with fiduciary duties. We can dig up some horror stories from the internet and go over them. Would be really happy to do that. So comment below if that's something you're interested in. I, again, would be happy to make up some scenarios and give you explanations. Could be juicy. I'm going on a rabbit hole. Okay, fiduciary duties, duty of loyalty. That's Joe's scenario, right? Like act in the best interests of the nonprofit, not necessarily for any one person. And it could that person could be on the board. It could also be like the executive director or somebody who works at the nonprofit. So again, the point of a nonprofit is for the cause. So if you say, does this X, Y, or Z act X work towards promoting our cause and furthering our cause? If the answer is yes, duty of loyalty is good. You should be good to go. That's your like filter. Duty of care is the second one. So this is being informed, attending meetings, actively participating in discussions, and making prudent decisions based on available information. So do your homework, ask questions. And again, this is if you're on the board, you need to have duty of care. Pay attention, care about the cause, listen when the executive director is presenting data or pieces of information that will help you make a decision on your nonprofit. Okay, third is duty of obedience. So this is ensuring that the nonprofit operates in accordance with its mission, bylaws, applicable laws, and regulations. So again, you need to be up to speed on what your nonprofit is required to do with your jurisdiction. Again, so like a lot of this is pretty straightforward, easy. If you've been on a nonprofit before, a lot of it transfers over. Duty of loyalty and care will carry you a long way. But also like, make sure that the decisions you make strategically are aligned with promoting your cause. Um, you have bylaws, and so take a look at those at least once or twice, a year, I would say. Just know how you're operating as a nonprofit. So your bylaws, and that's another thing I can totally go into. I'm going to try not to go down a rabbit hole too far with it, but your bylaws are like it's like your handbook of how you run your nonprofit. So it includes things like how often does your board of directors meet. So little details like that that make it specific to your nonprofit. Okay, so that's number two, fiduciary duties. The third crucial tip I have for you is the board is a collective decision-making body. So individual board members do not have authority to make decisions on their own unless it's specifically delegated to you. Again, that would be likely outlined in your bylaws. Decisions are made collectively through board meetings, discussions, and votes. Again, pretty boilerplate with bylaws. So it's it's pretty honestly, here's the thing. A lot of times people will ask me, what is the difference between a for-profit and a nonprofit? And when it comes to board of directors, it's very similar. You are going to try to like put your time, energy, and resources into making your cause go further, do more good, help more people, help more wild animals, whatever it might be. And yeah, so when you're making your collective decisions as a board, it's similar to that of a for-profit organization or any like I'm trying to like distill it down. So maybe if you're not like in an executive level or C-suite operating position, um, if you were like the manager of a project, even like in that instance, it's usually manager telling all these people that are doing the work how to do the work, what they're doing, time frames, deadlines, all of that stuff. It's more collaborative. So think group project. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the best, very simple and quick example that I can give you. Um, but yeah, so your board is a collective decision-making body. Nonprofits should establish clear processes for meetings, agendas, and voting. I'll give a quick example. When I was with FFDA, the co-executive directors, we had two, they would draft an agenda and they would take there were a couple of action items that were like saved for like let's discuss this next meeting. So those would automatically fill into the agenda. There would be kind of standing routine rhythms of what we would go over with your board of directors. Um, and one of the things that we would do as well is like a review of the agenda. It would be sent out before I, as the board president, would approve of the board of directors agenda. And then when we first met, that was one of the things we went over is do we all agree on this? Do we need to make any amendments to the agenda before we start? And usually it was pretty straightforward and people would say like, yeah, like we all agree, yay or nay. Or if it was Zoom, like a hands up vote for either or. And then the other thing is like if there was something we forgot or somebody's like, actually, I saw this article that's pertinent to it, I'd like to discuss it. Usually we'd like to have that ahead of time so we could disperse it before everyone else so that they don't have to look at something new on the spot. But yeah, again, like I would have the agenda first, approve it, send it out to everybody else on the board so that they could take a look at it. And then again in person when we were all meeting, say, do we all agree on this agenda? Then we would proceed. Um, so yeah, have a process, stick to it. The other thing is when you're going through your agendas and stuff like that, when you're having your board meetings, and this is kind of a separate but relevant tip, always take notes, meeting notes. Now there's so much stuff with AI. So if you have it just recording in the background, you can have an AI secretary essentially. I would still say have a secretary take some notes as well, or at least monitor the note taking AI service because AI isn't perfect. And it's good to have somebody who's actively listening to figure out what those action steps are, what are the vote outcomes and things like that. So you're going to want to make sure you're a part of all of that as well, just to review it and make sure everything is up to snuff. Okay, so far we've talked about the board as a governing body, not day-to-day staff. Two is fiduciary duty, duty of loyalty, care, and obedience, and the board is a collective decision-making body. Crucial tip number 4 is board members bring diverse skills and perspectives. This is one of my favorite topics. I know DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then there's a couple extra acronyms that we could throw in there as well. But it's been up and down a lot, but I think it really is important because in this instance, specifically, a board is comprised of individuals. We want a variety of skills, experiences, and backgrounds relevant to the nonprofit's mission and operations. So, for example, there are plenty of nonprofit board matrices that you can look up online, including things like finance, law, marketing, program expertise, community connections. Um, and you want a mix of that to be on your board to help support you when you're having those strategic questions of do we start marketing just to the greater Boston area or do we want to go international? Do we want to go national? Like some of these questions. And then what does that look like from a marketing perspective? Do we have the funds to allocate towards a larger marketing campaign? How do we figure out our niche? With finance, again, same problems that can arise, same like threads of concern. Do we have the capital to do a marketing campaign that spans nationwide? Do we not? You're going to want people to have that collaborative expertise to bring their 2 cents to the table on what direction might be most realistic for you. Um, nonprofit, like another way that I think doesn't get talked about enough for your board is people that are dreamers, but also people that can bring things down to reality. So having a balance of people that will help you be inspired and passionate, excited, but also really understand that you can't just recruit your friends. Focus on expertise that you need. So young nonprofits should seek out individuals that can contribute valuable insights and help the organization grow and thrive. I think honestly, like I've had people that I've worked with, young nonprofits, hire friends. I mean, hire is not the right word, recruit is better. And focus on the needed expertise along with that. And I think having friends on when you first start can be really helpful. But I would say, like, it is your relationship as well. And so all of this is so relational. having friends on maybe for a short term while you get your paperwork situated is maybe a helpful way just to have that support. As long as they do have expertise as well, that would be beneficial. You could be really upfront with them and say, hey, I just need you for a 1 year term while we build up who we are as a nonprofit. And that can be really helpful as well because you can get the ball rolling while also looking for more people that might be able to give a longer term commitment. And the last tip is the board executive director relationship is key to success. So, for nonprofits that have a staff, the relationship between the board and the executive director or whoever is at the top running your organization is critical. So, your board provides strategic guidance and oversight while the executive director or ED manages the day-to-day operations. So having that clear communication, some mutual respect, and a shared understanding of roles and responsibilities is really essential for a healthy and effective organization. Young nonprofits should establish clear lines of communication and regular reporting mechanisms. So yeah, I think, and a tip for that last tip, like a little bit of a story is, you know, if you're like president of the board, take your executive director out for lunch or coffee, get to know them, care about them as people, but also be open and clear about your expectations of what happens when a problem arises. Do you talk to them about it? How do you communicate issues that go from either side? Whether it's the board having an issue with an executive director or an executive director having issues running programming, or funding issues or fundraising or whatever it is, so that open and honest communication can be so helpful from catching problems from snowballing into bigger issues. So yeah, definitely I would say if you can meet outside of normal board meetings with your executive directors, if you are holding a president of the board position, that would be ideal. So yeah, I hope that's helpful for you guys. Next episode, we're going to be talking about finding board members. So that's going to be exciting. Some tips and tricks on not just what to look for, but how to build a really clear understanding of what you're looking for, what your expectations are, and what they'll get out of it as well, because I think that's really important for people to understand. But yeah, 5 crucial tips for young nonprofits to understand what a board of directors is. Governing the board is a governing body. You have 3 fiduciary duties. The board is a collective decision-making body. Board members have and should bring diverse skills and perspectives, and your executive director and board of the director president, whatever you want to call it, relationship is key to success. So I hope that was really helpful for you guys. And I'm excited for the next time that we get to chat. Thank you again for everyone who's had patience with dealing with me taking a couple of weeks off to figure out my health stuff. As excited as I have been to launch the podcast, we also have done a rebrand. So for those of you who are listening from day one, you know that we're no longer the podcast of podcasts for nonprofit founders, but we're the Nonprofit Curious podcast, which is a lot easier to say and remember. So I hope you'll stay curious and you'll enjoy learning about nonprofits as we continue to journey through this together. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.